Hey everyone, in this video I am going to show you how to build a fractal that I found online a few weeks ago, and the person who introduced it to me was Matt Henderson on Twitter. So here's the construction. We start with a hexagon and we pick a random point inside the hexagon, which here is point A. And then we pick a random side of the hexagon, and we use the endpoints of that side, as well as point A, to construct a triangle. And then we construct point C, which is the centroid of the triangle. We then start with point C, and we pick a new random side of our hexagon, and again construct a triangle, and again construct its centroid. And we repeat that process using the centroid and a new random side of our hexagon to keep constructing more centroids. And what we'd like to see is, if we plot all of these centroids, what do we get? So here I'm going to hide this construction and press animate to put this sketchpad iteration to work. And we very rapidly see it generate this image of these random centroids. And lo and behold, it's building a fractal-like image. So how can we create this starting almost from scratch? Well, let's go to page 2 of this sketch. This sketch is something you can download from my blog post. The link to that blog post is underneath the YouTube video here. And I've started by putting a little bit of the framework in place. This is a construction which allows us to generate a random number from 1 to 6. And I do so by dragging point P. So limit 1 is the lower endpoint 1, which is the value of P when P is all the way here at the left. And limit 2 is the value of P when it's on the right, so 6. And I'm going to use this to help to randomly determine for each step of the iteration I'm about to build which random side of the hexagon it's going to pick when building a triangle. So speaking of that, we need a hexagon. So I am going to use my set of regular polygon tools. This is probably not visible on the screen right now, but this is just using the regular polygon tools that you can download for free from, let's see, from the help menu by picking sample sketches and tools. So I'm going to create a hexagon, and I simply click and click again. There's my hexagon. Let's arrange it here on screen. All right. I am going to delete its interior. We don't need that. And I'm also going to select the 6 vertices of the hexagon. And actually, yeah, I'll select all 6. And I'm going to create a hide show button for them, because we ultimately will not want to see them, but I do want them probably to be available to me. So pressing hide hides all 6 vertices, and then pressing show brings them back. Okay, now I am also going to construct 2 diagonals here and the point where they intersect to create the center of my hexagon. Let's make that a little bigger. So I'm going to use this center point to help me randomly generate which side of my hexagon to use for each triangle construction. So how is this going to work? Well, I have a value here of P that ranges from 1 to 6. And what I'm going to do is to rotate this point here at the top of my hexagon, point C. I'm going to rotate that by a random amount, either 60 degrees, 120, 180 degrees, 240, 300 degrees, or going all the way around to 360 degrees. And that is going to determine one endpoint of that random side of our hexagon that we're picking. So I am going to calculate the value of point P, which is any value from 1 to 6, and multiply that by 60 degrees. So now when I drag point P, I get a value either from 60, 120, 180, all the way up to 360. Okay, so now I am going to double-click on the center of the hexagon to mark it as the center of my rotation. I will then select point C and choose Transform, Rotate. I will then rotate it by this amount. And now I am going to hide those vertices of my hexagon. And now when I drag point P, I see that this point, which I'll color red, travels to all 6 vertices of the hexagon. So if P was to go randomly somewhere like here, then this is my random vertex I've just selected. So now that I have this random vertex, let's actually go one step further and get a random side of the hexagon. I'm going to take this point and rotate it by a fixed amount, 60 degrees. So here now when I drag point P, we see that each time P increments by 60 degrees, we get a new side of our hexagon. So when P is randomly picked, we get a random side of our hexagon. Okay, now I am going to construct that triangle formed by that. Oops, sorry, that's not right. I need a random point inside my hexagon. I'm going to hide the center of the hexagon. I don't need that anymore. Here is my random point. I believe we called that point C. Is that correct? Let's see. No, we called it A. Okay, so I'll call it A for consistency. So here's point A, and here are the other 2 vertices of this triangle. I want to construct its centroid, so I'll construct these 2 sides. I'll select them and choose Construct Midpoints. I will connect this midpoint to the opposite vertex. Ditto here. And here is the centroid. And that's what I'll label as C. And again, notice if I move P, that moves the centroid. All right, so now we have almost everything set up to do our iteration. We'll hide our triangle construction. We don't really need to see that. I don't think we really need to see the vertices of our triangle, but I am going to create a new parameter called depth that we will use to set our iteration into motion to create more and more centroids. And I think we are ready to do our iteration. We are going to iterate point A. We are going to put P into our iteration as well, and also select depth. I will then hold the Shift key and choose Transform, Iterate to Depth. You have to hold the Shift key when you're doing Iterate to Depth. I am going to iterate point A, our first random point in the hexagon, to point C, which is that centroid we constructed. And P, this random point on this segment, I will iterate to itself. But because I want P for each piece of this iteration to move to a random point, I'm going to go under the structure menu and choose that P should not go to the same relative position. It should go to new random locations each time so that we pick new sides of our hexagon at random. And I'm going to now click Iterate. Our iteration generated a table. I don't need that. I will delete that. And I now want to iterate the depth, which will control the depth of the iteration. I'm going to choose Edit, Action Buttons, Animate. Let's see. I want this to be pretty quick, so I'm going to have it animate by 10. And how about do that every 10th of a second? And we can go from 0 to maybe 3,000. Okay, so now I am going to animate this parameter depth. And we see it very quickly fill in with all of these centroids. I'm going to stop that for a second and just select that loci. Let's make these, how about we make them even dots? Let's see what that looks like. And we see a pattern begin to emerge as this depth is increasing. So there you have it. This is a great, more advanced use of Sketchpad to create an iteration. And in the blog post, there is a file you can download which has some other fractals generated by iteration that were developed in a similar way. So hope you enjoy this and try building it yourself as well. Take care.